With the recent release of the new God of War game, now's a good time to take a look back at the previous entries in the franchise and examine the ways the series was changed in different regions around the world. Censored Gaming has previously highlighted some of the ways the series has been toned down over in Japan, leading to things like all explicit nudity being removed from the Japanese versions of the game due to the strict rules of Japan's console rating system. However, it's not just the Japanese versions that have had to have changes made. Today we'll be taking a look at how the franchise has been toned down over in Europe and why these modifications were likely made. The original God of War title from way back in 2005 actually ran into some big issues over in Germany, and it was initially refused a rating, meaning an official release would not be possible. This is also despite Sony toning down the violence in all European copies of the game, likely to try and avoid any issues in the German market. Sony appealed the refusal and eventually managed to convince the German government to allow the game to be released without any further changes. This resulted in massive delays for the German version though, with it finally releasing May 16th, 2006, almost a year after the European release. Furthermore, by this time, both the US and Europe already had re-released greatest hits copies of the game out, yet the German version was still sold at full price. As mentioned, all European copies of the game had changes to the game's violence, and these changes can also still be found in European copies of the HD collection release. The US release, however, remains uncensored. The censored content involves a puzzle you have to solve involving a human sacrifice. Kratos must offer the life of a human character in order to be able to proceed. The human is found in a cage, and Kratos pushes him across the room and then sets him ablaze via a furnace.
Don't do this! Please! No!
The European version changes this section in multiple ways so that the sacrifice is no longer a living human, but a monster. There is also dialogue when you first encounter the cage containing the human, which is different between the versions.
Oh, thank the gods you've come. Break these bars. Get me out of here. What are you waiting for? Let me out. We can find our way back to Athens.
The gods demand sacrifice. From all of us.
Oh, please. No. No.
Alongside this, all of the other cages attached to the ceiling all had humans inside them too. Likewise, all of these human characters were changed to monsters in Europe. The note you can find in the area was also altered in Europe. In the US, the note reads, "What the gods ask of me no man could do. Not even Pandora's box is worth such a terrible price." This note refers to the human sacrifice and was altered in Europe so that it now says, "What the gods ask I cannot do, even for Pandora's box. They are monsters now, but they were once men. I know I am weak, but I cannot be a part of this. I have failed Athens." As you can see, the European note explains that they are monsters, but that they used to be men. This also means the European copies have an extra text box than the US version. Curiously, there was a further change made over in Europe and to this very same area. It is only in the US version where you'll be able to find a save point right before the cages. The European versions removes the save points, likely to make replaying this section of the game over and over again harder. That's all for God of War 1 though, but Europe would in fact have changes made again 8 years later with the release of God of War Ascension. Like the first game, this was most likely to try and avoid any issues over in Germany, and it saw changes being made to two parts of the game. In one section of the game, Kratos must solve a puzzle using a corpse attached to the chain of an elevator. When he pulls on the corpse, the elevator rises up, and he must secure the body so that the elevator stays in place. If he does this incorrectly though, and jumps on the raised elevator before completing the rest of the puzzle, his weight will cause the elevator to drop, resulting in the corpse having his limbs ripped off. It is only in the US release where you can see blood shoot out of the corpse's arms. In the European versions, all blood has been removed, as shown here. The other change occurs following the boss fight with Castor and Pollux. Pollux will be left seriously wounded, but still alive, and you must walk towards him and crush his face with your foot. The European version changes the camera angle so that you can no longer see his face being crushed. That's all for the changes made to the God of War series over in Europe though, with all other titles including the new 2018 reboot being the same as in the US. Part of the reason for this is likely due to Germany becoming a lot less strict when it comes to video game violence in recent years, which has allowed most titles to remain uncensored in Germany and the rest of Europe. As for why Sony would change all European versions rather than just the German release, this is something that Sony has a history of doing with their European releases, likely due to wanting to save resources by not having to produce different versions of games for different regions. The Last of Us, for instance, also had its violence toned down in all European versions. This saw dismemberment being removed from the online multiplayer, and the same changes were also made to the PS4 remastered release. As always, Censored Gaming is committed to providing information on changes like these being made to games, and not just Europe, but worldwide. If this is something you are interested in staying up to date with, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and until next time, thank you for watching.